I'll be your teacher today. Not that you asked for it, but it's very simple. It's 7 days in advance. The new moon is on its way. And I thought I'd just tip my hand and explain to you both the content creation, the schedule, and the why. So we'll start with why. Well, I have all this ammo in this here folder. And what that ammo means is that I've been building since yesterday. So 24 hours. I started 24 hours I started. And I'll have what is 8 days until the new moon, to have all this ammo that I am basically now 8 days ahead of the scheduling of the posts. So what any of this means is that if you wanted to ever have content, or you ever wanted to post on social, on anywhere, it'd be in your favor to be a week ahead. Why? You can schedule it out in such a way where you can get up every day, not only knowing that you have things to post, but it's on a schedule that flows. So you can create a story, maybe even a timeline of sorts. So what does any of this mean? Well, what it means is that the full moon is empty. So as the full moon accumulates light, you're essentially gathering information. You're receiving it. And what ends up happening is the moon will become full. And then at that point, you have so much information that it's overflowing in your brain. And that's when you release it. So that's also a schedule. That's also a timeline. That's also how you would make content. Is if you are in tune with what the moon is doing, then you can intuitively, well, that's where it comes from, build your content to have it be growth and appreciation or self-care. And then as the full moon arrives, you then take action. You start doing the giving part of it. You start doing the action. You start doing the latter half, which is the implementation. So the themes can even change, because for example, as the seed is planted into the ground, it's not going to be ready tomorrow. It's not going to be ready within a day or two. You have to keep watering it and watering it and watering it. But then as it bears fruit, or as it becomes whatever the seed was meant to be, then you can harvest it. So that's exactly what's going on here, is that you take your idea, you plant it, and for 14 days, you feed it. And then for 14 days after that, the full moon, you then get to reap the benefits. You get to consume it. You get to share it, give it to other people. So on my keyboard is the number 4. So if you think about the S being on top of the 0 point, where you're starting is the new moon, and where it peaks, top of the wave, is the full moon, and it goes up and down, up and down. But notice how it's not going to go below that. Well, why? Well, that's because you're doing a consistent, repetitive thing that disciplines you in such a way that you're going to appreciate in life. Now, I'm thinking about this, realizing, do you accept the fact that you can live a completely happy life? Now, the fascinating thing about being here right now is that this guy on YouTube, his name is Brian Withers. He's saying something that I've known my entire life, that this idea that you can always choose happiness, and that can be your modality of life forever, is real and is completely true. And I invite you to go check out his YouTube channel, because it's changed my life. It's changing people's lives every single minute of the day. What he preaches is essentially that, let's just put, you win the lottery, you're so happy, you're so full of optimism, because you know what, I could get these things paid off, and then I could go have this vacation, and I could go buy this thing. That same feeling can be had at every moment of your life, to the point where you're just consistently receiving good feeling thought energy. And you're sitting there going, oh, well, like, that sounds like a lot of energy. Well, it sounds like it takes a lot of time to figure out. Well, if you're not going to do that, then you're going to live the, what? It keeps doing that. Anyways, the teeter and the tottering. Do you want the back and forth, or do you want to always just like be happy go lucky? Because the be happy go lucky life is a completely different way of the world. How do I know that? Well, I live it. For, let's just say, 12 years. The first 6 years, I realized what I'm telling you. I was like 15 at the time. And then I realized, like, do other people know this? And so I started to question that. And I implemented myself with different parts of society. And then for 6 years, I realized that, so that first 6 years, I realized, not everyone really gets what I'm getting. And then at the middle part of that 6 years, that 12 years, sorry, I then went to college, and I had a completely different way of life. And I realized, like, it's not just like where I live, but it's also like in the rest of society, no one really gets it this way. So then 2020 came around, and I asked my parents, I said, do you guys know about the manual of life? And they're like, wait, what? There was a manual of life? What do you mean? And I said, yeah, like when I was born, they didn't offer you like the literal blueprint of how to be a human. And they said, no, well, they gave us a birth certificate. That was it. And I sat there saying to myself, like, why is it I have not only the curiosity to figure these things out, but then I also have the ability to implement and then analyze my own life to the point where these theories and these systems that I'm developing, why is no one else doing this? So then I realized, like, I must have the blueprint of life. And ultimately what that's brought me to is essentially the happiest part of my life. Is in the second half of that 12-year, that 6-year mark, there was a point where, if within that 6 years, I had to spend 3 years renegotiating everything I knew. And then the last 3 years, so at year 9 of the 12-year span, I had to choose to absorb so much new information that it's made me who I am today. And then I've had to deal with and justify all of the other random business that has to do with life and a career and all this stuff. Because here's some other background. For myself, my own career, I started doing what anyone else would. Hey, Dad, I'll work for you. So there I was, typing away, stapling away, walking away, realizing, like, I'm doing the work at such a quality, with such a purpose, that these other 100 people in this office, I'm doing what they're doing, but at the age of 14 years old. And I'm doing it faster, more consistently, and my results are amazing. So it fascinated me, still fascinates me to this day, that there are people who do the work of 1,000 men, basically. Maybe even 1,000,000 men. So I thought there was something to that, because when I was in a different apprenticeship, in a different role of having an advisor, essentially, realizing, like, if I stay in this job, if I stay doing what I'm doing, essentially complying my way through what society would call life, which is graduate high school, you go to college, you get a degree. Your degree gets you that little alumni license plate that goes in the back of your Prius. And then you have a job that essentially dictates who you're friends with, when you can take a vacation, who your doctors are, where you call home. I realized, like, how can I make myself so intangible and such a asset to myself that I'm not only willing to sit there and be like, I don't deserve these set of things, but I deserve these set of things. How do I get myself to that point? So that's this journey. That's where I'm at right now. Finally able to go out into the world with my roots deep into the ground, a spine that keeps me up, and a mind that I can receive all of the water in the world. Realizing, like, this is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I mean, look at me. Like, getting to this point in my life has been the best journey, and I'm enjoying the journey. I'm at this point realizing, like, I have to make this video 7 days in advance of the full moon because that person, the new moon, because that person who's going to be making these things happen for themselves has to have a system that is so consistent and so reliable that I could even tip my hand and tell you everything of what I'm doing. Because what I also realize is that those same YouTubers, Jacob and Sam Calder, they were the ones who planted the seed in my brain to realize, like, you mean to tell me that these folks can jump out of planes and go to Bali and get paid to take photos and post them on social media? Not realizing that, how did they get there? Why are they there? And mentally speaking, how do they get out of their own way to talk to the camera? How do they get out of their own way to publish while not really caring about what other people think or say or feel? But then also realizing that that fuels a fire within them that wasn't going to be at a desk, or wasn't going to be bagging groceries, or wasn't going to be being the bottom of the social light structure and then having to continuously prove themselves to some guy who makes more money than them, realizing, like, sounds like a midlife crisis, I know. But I'll be here for you and yours. So with that said, I could talk about sobriety, I could talk about health, I could talk about perceptions of life, books to read, and all this stuff. Maybe I'll read you a book. Maybe I'll tell you which books to read. Because maybe that's why you're watching this. That's why I watched YouTube, was looking for the whys, looking for the hows, looking for the alternatives to life. Because when you upgrade your tool belt, you then can play with different things and build different things and provide yourself with even more different things. So it's 11:27. I just got done with the farmer's market. Got my bread. Got my little juicy juice. I go get some strawberries from, again, another farm. And then after that, probably get some more content from my past egos and put them into these folders, because that's ultimately what happened. Was I'll round off by saying this. Basically, when I was in my deepest part of my life, the part where it was like my soul was like being sucked dry by the video games and the explicit content, realizing, like, there's a pulse here. So I'd screenshot all of those words and those images and all that stuff, and to this day, like, me going back over there, I laugh so hard because I'm so happy I did that, because I could have made content back then. I could go into the whole chef development and product development and recipes and all that stuff, but I'm just glad that I was able to look after myself, look after this version of myself back then. I was happy then, realizing this person would talk to this camera and be where he is today. So it's a full circle moment of alignment. And this will be the way that I can go back and say, hey, because I haven't never done this before. You can see on the bottom right there, I've recorded plenty of these, plenty of times. So it'll be like a Google Drive that I already have, or an iCloud that I already have, or the hard drive or the external drive, but just on the internet instead. Because that's all it really is. It's just a storage place where I can go back and be like, oh, that's what I was thinking about, or that's what I sounded like, or that's what I look like. Because I mean, I could keep it all in my hard drive, but I was inspired by people who pushed post. I was inspired by people who made the content. My turn. All the best. Take care.